Long before COVID-19, Patty made sure that this trailer was clean and sanitized.
I'm going to tell you how I do it in this
Midweek Update. Welcome back, everyone. I'm Patrick.
And I'm Patty.
This is Bess.
And this is Truman.
And we are Travels with Delaney. And before we get started with this week's topic on how Patty keeps our trailer clean and sanitized, we'll do our usual midweek update. And since last week, I don't know that a lot's changed.
No,
more status quo. Main thing is we want to make sure that all of you are staying safe and healthy by maintaining that social distancing and washing your hands and, quite frankly, just staying home.
Yep, just staying away. 6 feet?
6 feet. And so one of the things we're trying to do is, honestly, we pretty much stay right here at home, whether it's inside in Tall Pine Lodge or out here in our Tab 400 that we call Carl.
Exactly.
So what we have found, though, is when we do go in, we try to minimize the risk. And what I mean by go in, I mean into town.
Right. You've done some things like we like to support our local businesses. So there's a coffee house that we like. So we, kind of get out a little bit. We'll go for a ride, take the pups, and get ourselves a drink, a beverage. And I think they enjoy talking with us, too. And they're wearing the gloves when they hand us out our cups. And we'd make sure that when we get home, we wash our hands,
right?
And throw away the cups. So, but we're just trying to support our local businesses a little bit.
Yep. And last weekend we tried for the first time ever the order your groceries online and pick them up. And honestly, it was a little confusing at first online.
Yeah.
It's not as easy as walking through the grocery store and picking out what you want.
It took a little more time to think about because, at least with us, I have a routine when I go through the store, and maybe you do too. And so you have a routine where you go, and looking online, you have to think a little differently about what you need. How you get it and how much you want and so forth.
But the pickup was great because we basically, you pulled into Walmart into a numbered space and on the iPhone app, you just punched in what space number you were in and they roll your groceries out to you and load them in your car and that was it.
And all you did was you just opened the tailgate of the truck and you did your 6 feet apart and the person just unloaded for you and then that was it.
Right.
Didn't have to touch or anything. And then we've even added in when we come home, we use gloves with the bags and we wipe down everything just to be extra precautious just because you just don't know. It's just so uncertain. I'm sure you guys are feeling that too. We just don't know for sure, so we want to be safe.
Not willing to take the risk, basically.
Basically.
So I don't know what all of you have been doing while you're at home if you're like us. We are working remotely, and honestly, working remotely is a lot harder work
than if I was in the classroom.
Yeah. And a lot of it is, again, those challenges of knowing whether our students have the resources that they need. And one of the big ones is around our area, because we are rural, is internet. A lot of the students just don't necessarily have the access.
It's very sporadic, and it's just very difficult. We're trying to figure out right now, at least I am, who has internet access and who doesn't, who has technology at home to use things, because we've never done something like this before, and so it's just very frustrating. It's just very frustrating to get contact and get contact return, and it's just been a struggle.
It's a little more challenging, but we're getting through it, and again, I think all of us will be much better for it in the long run.
Right.
And I think it will open up new opportunities from an education standpoint going forward.
Definitely.
So.
Yep. Yeah, lots.
The other thing we found is when we're not working and we're not taking naps or eating is shopping has been an issue for us.
Yeah, I like to shop a little bit.
Shop online. So I'm curious how many of you have done some online shopping during this time.
The puppies got new chew bones,
they
right?
They did.
Yeah. You got to do a little shopping. You like Amazon. I'm an Amazon girl.
So we started looking for e-bikes about a week ago. We kind of got excited about e-bikes last fall at our camp out in Virginia when our friends Brett and Jan allowed me to ride their e-bike. And Patty, as many of you know, broke her leg not once but twice.
Right.
And so riding bike for her is not impossible.
It's just a little scary, a little bit, just because I don't want to break the leg again. So And I have a stationary bike that I practice and exercise on, but getting a real bike, I want to get out there on a real bike. So I think this would be our way to do it.
Yeah, and the nice thing about the electronic bikes, they have the pedal assist, so you can still pedal and get exercise, but it just takes some of the strain off of like your leg. But they also then have the option of the throttle. So if you just kind of want to turn it into a little power scooter, you can move along. So I ended up spending, a good week.
Oh my
probably.
Gosh, torture.
So for those of you who don't know, I'm one of those people when we look to make a major purchase, I do a lot of research.
Which is good. I get that. I like it. That's a good thing.
Right.
But then when it becomes obsessive almost where he can't sleep.
Right.
And he's on his phone for all hours of the night and he wakes up super early and that's all he can think about, then we have a problem.
Yeah. So I think I watched every review on YouTube once, if not twice. I'm one of those, I run the numbers. I try to write down pros and cons.
And there were points where you had to figure out which size bike, the measurement. I think I measured you like 3 or 4 times.
I know, yeah. So, because obviously, number one, the issue is you can't really go out and go to a bike shop.
No.
And so we're trying to do this through online. But the good news is we finally made a decision, and we're going to share that decision with you next week. Oh, keep you coming back.
Terrible.
Yeah, I know. And one last thing is Friday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. You can join us again this week for
game night.
Game night. Family-friendly fun is what I like to call
it.
So we had a really good time last week playing around a match game.
Yes.
I think we had about 80 people at one point in the chat room. And so join us again Friday night again at 8 p.m. over on the YouTube channel. And we're going to be doing another game.
Lots of fun.
Yeah. So
fun.
All right. Let's get on to the topic at hand this week, which is how do we keep our Tab 400 clean and sanitized when we're out on the road camping?
Well, there are 3 things that I narrowed it down to that I like the most, especially if you know a Tab camper, it's pretty little. Don't have a lot of storage, for one thing.
Because would you say that how you clean this trailer is much different than the way you would have went about our fifth wheel?
A little bit different, yes.
And what's the big difference?
The big difference is this little vacuum here. In the fifth wheel, we had a Shark vacuum that's now used in the cabin, upstairs in the cabin in the loft, because it's just too big to carry around in here. So we found on this Black & Decker little vacuum last summer, and Patrick was able to hook it up in our wardrobe, and you also hooked it up so that it can charge in there. Otherwise you just set it up on your counter, but I didn't want it on the counter, and so he got a brilliant idea and it worked out, and it was very ingenious. And so this is perfect for me. For this camper, it's easy. I don't have a lot to vacuum, which is good, but
one of the benefits of an 18-foot trailer.
But with puppies, and we like to be outside a lot, we're always tracking things in and out. This works really easy for me, and it's easy to empty, and it's easy to clean, and it's easy to store and get it charged up. So this is one of the things that I like, that I use, that's it's quick and easy to clean. Well,
and the other nice thing is with our trailer, we have the Infinity flooring. So it makes it super easy to clean. We don't have carpeting, which I hate in RVs in general.
Yeah, it's to me, carpeting just kind of, it's not the best carpeting, and then it wears out, it gets thin. Because in our fifth wheel, you could always see where you walked. You can never get it like in your house where you have better carpeting. So this is one of my favorite things to use when cleaning Carl.
Yeah, and it's nice because, again, I was able to wire it so that we can have it plugged in the closet. We just let it hang in there at all times, so it's always fully charged for you. Doesn't take up a lot of space. And, yeah, is it the greatest sweeper in the world? Probably not. But for an 18-foot trailer that has Infinity flooring.
I mean, it picks up the tiniest little stones, little dog furs.
And it even has
a little brush attachment on the end that it saves. I had it in the storage position, but I meant to. Patrick just pulled it out there for you to see.
Fire it up. Let them hear it.
Okay.
There you go. So that's how you keep things like the floor clean and any place you kind of want to pick up.
Right, and like sometimes the bed top with puppy fur, I use that, or our
just
bed.
to get the hair off.
Yeah, just to get, like, if they have an extra clod of fur that sometimes comes
What about
off.
dust? Can you actually dust a small trailer?
Well, I like to use a Swiffer duster. I use these in the house, and I've used them always in our campers. These things, if you've ever used them, they're great. They can get into tiny little spaces. We have so many tiny little spaces, like up here. I know you can't see it all. Little cubbies. There's a space behind Patrick that always collects dog fur. It's just any place, because their fur goes everywhere. If you have a pet, you know what I'm talking about. And so I can do everything with this thing. And these, I buy the kind that are for pet. Specific, yeah, because there's different kinds. And this one is the off-brand from Walmart, but it does just as well as the fancy Swiffer brand for pet. And it seems like to me that their fur, because it's so light and fluffy and thin, that this just kind of almost just clings to it. And then when it gets full, I just take it off and get a new one. And they're easy to store in our cabinet. It's a smaller box for me, and they last pretty long. This one's been used pretty much a little bit.
And you can pick them up almost anywhere when you're out traveling. So if we do run out during a long trip, we can easily pick some more up. So, okay.
So, yeah, this is the other thing that I like, because it's just easy and quick, especially in here. And sometimes this works really well on our bed, just to get some other, I guess, big dog fur clumps if I see them.
Loosen them up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Get them off.
So that's how you do dust. That's how you sweep the floors. What about disinfecting and cleaning surfaces?
I've always used wet wipes, even in all of our rigs and in the house. I'm constantly, and it's before even COVID-19, wiping down doorknobs. I think it's because I'm a teacher, and I do that at school all the time. I'm wiping down, things the kids would touch. So in this camper, every so often, usually in my every morning routine, if we're on a big trip, is I'm cleaning down the doorknobs, or I'm wiping down the countertops, or little ledges, or even like with this camper, I can wipe down the walls, so that we don't have germs on there that we're getting, if we have a cough or something, we're not contaminating each other. So this is always super easy. In our cabinet, I'm able to keep 3 of those down there, and they last, because this one has 75 wipes. And I use a wipe, in my opinion, till it kind of gets dry in my hand a little bit, because I don't like to waste. So if I don't just wipe one thing and throw it away. I use these in our bathroom too. I use them in our toilet. I don't flush them down the toilet, but I use them to wipe down around and on the inside of the toilet, because I just have a fear that sometimes the stuff you would use with a brush might scrape our camper toilets. I've never done that. Not like you would in your house.
And you'd have it going down in the black tank, those harsh chemicals.
And I don't want that chemical down in there either, because, chemical reactions and things like that. So this is another thing that I'm always looking for, to wipe down everything that we touch in the camper, just to kind of keep it fresh and clean. And they have good scents, and they don't harm the dogs or anything, because I always make sure it's dry. And there's not a lot that the pups, like right now he's licking this, but I haven't touched it with this. So I just try to make sure I'm not wiping and then they lick, because I just don't want them to get sick. So
you were basically able to replace a big plastic tray of chemicals that we kept on our fifth wheel, where you had your toilet bowl cleaners and your solid surface cleaners and your Windex and things like that, and you just use these to save space.
Right, exactly.
And they are disinfecting. Kills
99.9%.
It's always that 0.1 that gets you though.
So
now,
go ahead.
One question that people might be asking if they're a NuCamp owner is, you don't use those on the windows, do you?
I don't. No, I don't. Because I'm just leery about, I don't want to ruin these windows. So if I have a smudge on the window, I'll just wet a cloth or a paper towel with soapy water, or just some hot water, and that usually does the trick. I'll do a hot water cloth and then a dry cloth, and that usually does the trick. Like if Truman, sometimes he'll lick this window when he's watching Patrick hitch up, or the window over here, he likes the porthole. So yeah, I'm very careful with these windows, because I just don't want to mess them up.
And for any of you wondering what's so special about NuCamp's windows, they use a plastic double pane window, and they can scratch the plastic. So although we don't really have to worry about that, because I did a pretty good job scratching up the outside the last summer in Idaho on government land, going down some pretty narrow roads. But in general, you just want to use a soft cloth and some warm water. Don't use the disinfectant wipes.
I don't use them on those, but they do well on everything else, because there's a lot of places that are open that it's easy. You don't have to go around things. So
You do a great job. Again, Patty, whether it's our camper or whether it's our house, that's the one thing. She has always made sure that everything is spotless and clean and sanitary. And it really does help to cut down on germs, regardless of whether it's COVID-19 or just the flu or cold or whatever. And so you don't have to carry a lot of cleaning supplies with you in your trailer to keep your trailer just as clean as home.
Yeah, because when I get this out, the pups always think it's a toy. And I'm like, no, I'm going to dust you now. See, Sissy will let me do it. But Truman always wants to play. He's a little distracted. But I'm like, no, this isn't for play. But I can clean you with it.
So tell us what you use to keep your camper clean down in the comments below. And until next time, everybody, we'll see ya.
On down the road.
Good night. You say good night? Okay.